Hi, I'm Borkon. Glad to have you here. Welcome back. And I guess it's time to do this. Let's see if I can hit it. First attempt. Oh, maybe? Yes, it is. Yeah, that many blocks. Yes. Almost 20,000, not exactly 19,000. Yeah, the time lapse you just saw was not this part. This I actually just finished just because I wanted to do a little bit more before doing the intro. Not sure why, but I decided to do that. Now, the time lapse you saw was, of course, of this entire area. It took all of my netherrack and more than once, because I actually had to recycle some of the netherrack. But I did experiment with this method doing that area, and I can pretty much just start picking up the netherrack. Like, I put it down, then put it down on the next little bit. It doesn't even have to be a big bit, and then I can move to the previous bit and remove the netherrack. And it definitely makes sense, because as you've seen on the time lapse, I wanted to have the grass grow more or less at the same time, and that just slowed things down. But like, I wanted to have a cool time lapse of grass growing. Yep, we're watching grass grow again. But it shouldn't be that much more. So 19,000, I still need to do a little bit more today, but it's not much, and I think like the counter will probably stop at 10,000. I suspect that's about where it's gonna stop. And if anybody remembers that this one was showing a 9 before, uh, if you look carefully at that footage, this block was gone, and there were some bits missing here. I think this blackstone was missing, and that's because I had my second account AFK over there, and he got blown up by a creeper, and I didn't even notice, so that's why this thing was showing 9. Uh, it wasn't 9, it was actually 5, but it was broken. So it's fine, it's fixed. So from last time, as you can see, I still haven't placed the beacons. We're gonna do that right now, and then we're gonna go for a redstoney farmy project today, because yeah, I'm watching the views of my videos, and I can see that you're not very excited about me building things. You want farms, you want redstone, you want machines. Let's make a farm redstone machine today, but I do have to place the beacons first. And for this, I would like to show you a tool I am often using for planning where to put things and geometry of things and such like that. And it's on a website called desmos.com, and it's their graphing calculator. So, from school, you probably know that the equation for a circle is x squared plus y squared equals radius squared, right? It's Pythagoras' theorem, but that's how you get a circle too. So I have now drawn a circle of a radius 50, because that's the beacon radius. And to draw circles that aren't around 0.0, we can just add a number to the x and the y coordinates, and we can draw the circle somewhere else. So I have a variable here, which I called O, which is offset. And if I add this circle, well, it moves over here, and it's at minus 50 and minus 50 right now, because this variable is set to 50, but I can adjust it. I can set it to 0, and I can move it up to 100. And since we're gonna have 4 beacons, and they are all gonna be perfectly diagonally from the middle, let's just draw the 4 circles and see how the beacons would behave if we place them around the base like this. At 0, of course, they overlap, and I wouldn't be able to fit them there anyway. And so let's extend them, because the first logical point we would say, oh yeah, okay, let's have the beacons 100 blocks from each other. So at offset 50, so minus 50 and minus 50 from, or plus 50, whatever, plus or minus 50 from the middle. And we would see that the beacons would cover an area like this. And this is decent. But now we end up with large areas here that aren't really covered with the beacons. And I don't really like that. I want to have some overlap here so that the beacon effect at least reaches up to maybe there. So let's just play around with the slider here and see how far we can reach. And I think 45, and there is no science behind this. This is just playing around. I think 45, 43 to 46 is the probably best. It covers not exactly 70 blocks from the middle of the base, but maybe 65, 67. This would be probably the furthest we could have the overlap and the coverage outside of the base. But here somewhere is the maximum. But I have already checked how it would look in my base, and if you can see, I am 36 blocks diagonally away from the middle, which we can see here on mini HUDs on my distance measurement tool. And here we're still under the floor, so this is impossible. So I would have to move out a little bit more. Maybe to here, this is 40. We're still under the glass, and I think I said that I don't want to have the beacon beams go through the glass. So I think this will be the best position, maybe one block in, because this is just outside of the glass, and I think this is where we want to be. Maybe 45, but I think 46 is the best compromise between beacon coverage just outside of the entrances and the beacon beams not going through the glass. So I have decided to put the beacons right here, middle here, then the next middle would be here, and the same goes here. It's a good spot as well. And the last one will be in the middle of the scaffolding. No, not really. It would be here, and this mushroom has to go away. So yeah, I'm gonna put down the beacons now in the places where I decided, and we can move on from this part of the project. Just checking if the beacon beams are in the correct places, and it's almost as if I have planned this. Which I did, yeah. Math, when done correctly, kinda helps these kinds of projects. Alright, all the beacons are placed, and every position I calculated was actually correct, and exactly on the edge of the glass on each of these positions, so math works. At least, well, sometimes when I do it right. I kinda covered them up a little bit with the leaves here, because it looks a little bit ugly when they were sticking out, but the leaves do work. And this brings me quickly to our next topic, and it is that I streamed, that was actually yesterday, and we fixed some things up in various places of my base. Among other things, if you haven't noticed yet, there are now a lot of lights around the base here. And yeah, this were also a little bit placed random by just picking like, oh, this spot here is dark, let's place a light and cover it up with leaves. I tried carpets, didn't like carpets. Leaves work. I very much like leaves. And during the stream we had a philosophical discussion about why green and leaves look nice. It's an evolutionary thing. That was the conclusion of the stream chat. And yeah, oh, by the way, I woke up this morning, I had a morning voice, so I couldn't record anything, so I did this instead. We might actually finish faster than I thought, which would be nice. I won't lie to you, I want this thing to be done. So, let's look at the to-do list. This is done, I made it red, now it's invisible, red on red, it's fine. Good. Good that it's invisible, then we don't have to look at it. Another thing we did during the stream is to fix up the grass. It's not perfectly done, although I have spammed bone meal in very, very many places and added trees. I kind of forgot to add trees in this area, so I probably need to add some trees here. But a lot here has been bone meal spammed, trees here, or maybe this was an old area, I don't even remember. There, trees, bone meal on the grass, stuff like that. So this is mostly done, but another thing that we did on stream, and this was a very important one and a big one, and one I didn't want to do, even though it's absolutely necessary, but it's such a pain to do it. I did align the tunnel. Which one was the wrong tunnel? I already forgot. It wasn't that one. I think it was this one. Yes, it's this one. You can see the old tunnel was here, and the new tunnel is here. You can get a boat, and it works fine. It's completely fixed up. The tunnel is exactly where it should be and aligned with the other tunnel. And I do believe that all the tunnels on the crossroads here are actually in the middle. And if they aren't, then they aren't. And yeah, I fixed the cactuses as well because I got tired of running into them. Now I don't run into the cactuses anymore. So that's fine. That's done. Perfect. Let's color this in that it's done. This is the tentacle highlights. We actually tested a few blocks on the stream and I couldn't get anything to work. I'm just gonna mark it. I honestly, I have no idea if anything else can be added to them without it looking stupid. I don't think anything else I do will improve the tentacles, so yeah, it's done. And there we go! I did it properly this time. I built the tunnel to a project before starting or even finishing the project, which is my normal way of doing things, and this is a much better way. But yeah, let's not get too excited. It wasn't that much of a tunnel. Right, let's see what we are about to do today. And we are in this area. I picked this because it was, well, close enough to my tunnel network and it's relatively flat. So here we're gonna be building a kelp farm. And the reason why I want to build a kelp farm is that I have autocrafting. I forget about that sometimes, and autocrafting allows certain farms that aren't as practical without it. And I think kelp farm would be one of them, because to get kelp blocks, you need to first smelt them and then craft them into kelp blocks. The best way to fuel the furnaces would be with the kelp blocks, because the kelp blocks are useful as a fuel. It's a pain to craft it, so you would have to stand in the farm. You can't really AFK it. With autocrafting, that problem goes away. So I'm thinking that if this is successful and it works as well as I want it to work, then we could actually use this place, extend the kelp farm, make it even bigger, build a super smelter here, which I need to design still because my super smelter is someone else's design and it's not that super. It's kinda okay smelter. It's not super. So let's clear this area, get some materials and start building. I just realized the enormous amount of water placement I will have to do for this farm. That's gonna be probably the worst part about it. And I don't even have enough ice, and I can't do everything with ice anyway. I guess the kelp will probably help a lot, although I probably don't even have enough kelp. Ah! Yeah, this is a bigger project than I thought. So, let's test if I at least built the redstone right, because this is the entire mechanism. The rest is just water and some extra magic, which we'll get to later. Seems to work. Oh no. Yeah, okay, let me get away from the noise. Because that's annoying. That noise is not gonna happen in the real farm because there will be water, and water on top of a note block makes it silent. So yeah, boing, boing, yes, boing, boing. And the bits here are some extra blocks which are just covering up the note blocks so that the flying machine doesn't make noise when it gets out of here. Oh, let's move away from this. This is really annoying. Let's wait for the flying machine to park, and now it should park. Perfect, and it turned off and everything is great. So, the good news is that the tethered flying machine has now been updated to be able to be submerged. If you have seen my previous farms with tethered flying machines, there were lots of repeaters here instead of the observers. And there is a little bit of a problem to power the flying machine. Actually, let me move it out a few blocks and I can explain what's going on. There will be a few boings. That should be enough. Thank you. So there is a little bit of a problem on how to power this piston, back there, the one that is connected to the honey bar. And especially if I want the honey bar to be full 12 blocks long. So the piston that is connected to the honey is just powered through quasi-connectivity from the observer, so that is fine. But to power the piston on the other part of the flying machine, this one, it can be powered by quasi-connectivity by this block being powered, but something needs to update it. So the note block is doing the updates. It is possible to actually do it better, and once again, Boyan from my Discord and on the creative server, he made a better mechanism that doesn't require the noisy note block that can update this piston as well. But the problem is that it doesn't work underwater because it requires rails. So we have this instead. Other than that, this is like the previous versions of the tethered flying machine. And there was a lot of trouble to turn this off properly. I don't know why I didn't have that much trouble with this in the other machines, but for this one I had to change the clock a little bit, so instead of this signal going straight into the repeaters, which is what happened in the previous versions of the tethered flying machine, here I actually have to have an observer. I have this block here, which gets moved up with the slime block, and the observer gets moved up with the slime block as well to turn off the machine, because otherwise every other time we turned off the machine it would move another block. The problem is, if you're removing this block from the clock to disable the clock, this could either be powered or unpowered. If we remove that block when this is unpowered, everything is gonna be fine. If we remove that block when this is powered, this is gonna unpower, and that will send another signal through the line of repeaters here, and yeah, that caused problems. Now if we remove this, it unpowers exactly at the right moment and doesn't depend on which phase the clock is in. Not a huge deal, but I spent embarrassingly much time trying to figure this bit out. This was actually probably half of the design of this machine. And I mean the flying machine. The farm took far longer because it has some fun features, but let's build these fun features now, because this is not a farm. And now we're coming to the part where everybody will think that I just lost the plot. We need scaffolding. Yep, a lot of scaffolding, more scaffolding, all the scaffolding. This will become obvious why soon, but I just need to place all the scaffolding here. So the reason for the scaffolding, and no, I have not gone mad, the reason for the scaffolding is that we want to move the kelp with water streams. The problem with kelp farms is that if you want them to be safe, and that means that you don't want to run the farm all the time and the kelp grows, the kelp can grow up to 27 blocks up. And that means that if we move the kelp with water streams, the way I want to do it, we need to have the farm 27 blocks high, otherwise the kelp will grow into the water streams and change them into source blocks. This can be prevented with scaffolding, because scaffolding can be made waterlogged. After waterlogging the scaffolding, the kelp will still flow through it, but the plants will not grow through it. I'll demonstrate it once we have waterlogged all these scaffolding and placed them. And the way to make the scaffolding not fall down like it has done there, we just need to put it down on this side. My eyes are bleeding. This was crazy. Waterlogging all the scaffolding needs to be done in a different way if anybody else wants to build this kind of farm. This was just crazy. I think next time, if I ever want to build a farm like this, I think I will grow the kelp and put... Oh yeah, I know what to do properly, because I bucketed every single one of these scaffoldings. I'm going mad. What I would do is to Put water sources here, 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 every other one, and then on that side as well. And then just grow the kelp and let the kelp create water sources up to this level. And then put the scaffolding down. Because, like, I can remove the scaffolding here, right? This is fine. And if there is a water source here, now I have a waterlogged scaffolding. That's what I should have done. I went with buckets here, and I'm going a little bit mad now. And the problem is, this isn't even done. There is another layer, but it doesn't go as far. I think it's just 6 scaffoldings here, and they also have to be waterlogged. Oh, my brain hurts after doing this, but it's done. So there. Alright, first semi-real harvest with the water correctly placed. The other layer of scaffolding wasn't that bad, and this was just buckets. Everything should be fine now, and the kelp is falling down into this water stream, and everything is working great. Oh, I am so happy. It is now 4 in the morning, but I have finished this. A bit late maybe, but it's fine. Now, all the kelp will be going into these smokers. I was about to say smelters, but no. The kelp is going into these smokers, and there is 11 of them, and this field of kelp should be enough to feed 10, but I have 11 just to have some margin, because if I let this grow out completely, this thing will absolutely overflow. And the smokers, when they have fuel, and they don't have fuel right now, but when they have fuel, they will be smelting the kelp into the dried kelp, and this will be going into this dropper autocrafter, and then the blocks of the smelted kelp, no, what are they called? Blocks of kelp? Something like that. The blocks of kelp will be jumping into that little water stream, and that will be fueling the furnaces. And then the leftover blocks are gonna end up in this hopper, and I'm gonna add some storage system here. Now, as you can see, some of the kelp is just floating around and doesn't go up, and this is because the blocks here aren't source blocks. I need to let the entire kelp field grow up once to the full height, so that the kelp doesn't get stuck. Alright, I just AFK overnight, and as we can see, most of the kelp has grown up. When I was testing this in creative, it didn't really matter if every single plant was fully grown or not, and the kelp still behaved quite right, but I wanted to do this as good as possible, and I'm pretty sure everything now should be a source block. So, it's time to enable this, and yeah, we need to watch out for the lag, because the lag, and graphics lag especially, is gonna be spectacular when I do this. Oh, yes. The server is doing fine. How is my client doing? 18 FPS, 24 FPS. I'm not gonna move the camera, so maybe the rendering process of the video will improve this 18 FPS, 23 FPS, yeah. And it's all the kelp plants that are just completely filling everything up. But as soon as they are in the water stream, this should improve. Now we're back, and now we're back to sane levels again, and the MSPT isn't bad at all. So let's see how this is looking, and yeah, as expected, I have filled up all the hoppers. I could probably look at the hoppers from here. Yeah, all the hoppers probably look like that. This farm is not gonna generate normal kelp. This farm is only gonna generate kelp blocks. I might add something for actual kelp later. We'll figure it out when it's necessary. Right now I'm just going for the blocks. So, this was one harvest. A full double chest and a little bit more here. Of course, when this is running continuously, one harvest is not gonna be this huge, because this thing is gonna be harvesting about every 10 minutes, I think? Well, yeah, exactly every 10 minutes, because I'm doing the daylight sensor thing. So, this is gonna harvest when the sun sets and sun rises. So let's talk through again how this is supposed to work, because I was not very coherent when I recorded the bits when I was building it, because, well, like I said, I finished 4:30 in the morning. Yeah, my brain might not have been in the perfect shape for explaining how this is supposed to work. This mechanism here is my kinda standard, slightly modified clock for the tethered flying machine, and I have used this both for the pumpkin farm and for the sugarcane farm, and even the bamboo farm in the cactus smelter uses more or less the same mechanism. The bamboo farm still uses an old clock and I need to upgrade it someday, but it doesn't really matter. The idea is the same. The idea is that this is a tethered flying machine and it solves the problem of flying machines that break when you unload the chunks. So this is supposed to be my unload safe flying machine for farms. And it is unload safe. I can almost guarantee it now. The sugarcane, after I've done the fixes in the version 2 and version 3 of the tethered flying machine, the sugarcane farm has never broken again. This is a slightly new version, but I don't anticipate any problems. And this is a new version because the previous version of the tethered flying machine was not able to be submerged, because instead of the observers here that you can see here, there's just a lot of observers. The original, like, version 1, 2, and 3, this is version 4, I guess, of the tethered flying machine. Version 1, 2, and 3 of the tethered flying machine had repeaters there, and if water flows on the repeaters, you know the drill. Like, yeah, it will break them. So this is a different version with a slightly different method of powering the flying machines, which we can see here as just a bar of honey. I spent quite a lot of time to make sure that it is exactly 12 blocks long, and there is a good reason for this. And the reason, well, one, that is just the most efficient for a flying machine farm, but also specifically for the kelp farm, one 8x12 area of kelp generates exactly one smoker to smelt. So this is 10 8x12 areas, or 40, because this is 40 long, and then 12 in that direction, 12 in that direction. And yeah, the flying machine just goes through, breaks the kelp. Now, the kelp can potentially grow up to 26 blocks up. It never does, because I do this every 10 minutes and it requires probably at least an hour to have a good chance of growing relatively high. But to prevent any accidents, and especially if I have the farm standing and not doing anything, I have the scaffolding up there, the trick like I tried to explain and completely incoherent, so let's go through that again. The scaffolding is waterlogged, which means that any kelp that breaks will flow through it without any problems, and this has to be scaffolding because scaffolding does not prevent any items to go through it from below. It does from above, which is great because as soon as the kelp goes just slightly above the scaffolding, it is stuck above the scaffolding, and these water streams will just push it down into here, where it falls down into this water stream. And this water stream leads straight into the hoppers here, into the smokers. The output of the smokers goes into this autocrafter. For those who are new to this series, yes, I have autocrafting enabled in this world. I'm using the autocrafting dropper in the Carpet Extra mod. And it is autocrafting the kelp blocks, which are going into this hopper line, which feeds fuel into the furnaces. And at the end here, maybe in a day or two, the hopper line is gonna fill up, because this takes a lot of time. There is a lot of storage in hoppers like this. But when the hoppers for the fueling are gonna fill up, I need chests here, and there will be just some storage. And the kelp flows in here, and if it doesn't get picked up by the hoppers here, because probably they are full, it will just go around in a loop here, and either get picked up eventually or despawn. I could probably add some composting here if I didn't want all the kelp to be picked up by the furnaces, but like I said, I scaled this specifically to feed 10 smokers, and I actually have 11 smokers just to have some margin of error. And the way we enable this machine automatically is just by a daylight sensor. That is just an observed, well, through a repeater gets observed by an observer and enables the clock. That's how this works. And now we're gonna wait for a harvest, which should happen relatively soon. Okay, the sunset is any second now. Let's watch this happen. As you can see, the kelp have grown quite far, so if I wanted this farm to be safe without the scaffolding, it would already have to be much higher, even if I'm harvesting this frequently. Because, or that plant over there is really close to the top already. And if the kelp grows into the water streams, it will turn them into water sources and just completely break them, and all the kelp will get stuck up there. The sun... Oh, I keep forgetting that the sunset actually has to be very low for daylight sensors to pick it up. There we go. And yeah, okay, the FPS doesn't get hit as bad now, because it's not a crazy amount of kelp, it's just a large amount of kelp. And as we can see, everything is flowing up relatively slowly sometimes, but it all gets picked up. Interestingly enough, if I don't have honey on this bit of the flying machine, but have slime, the slime kicks the kelp so hard that it sometimes gets stuck in the glass. No idea how that's supposed to work, but that's how it works. And yeah, this all goes into the smokers. If everything has been dimensioned correctly, most of it should get picked up and not loop. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I spent the extra hours yesterday just to finish this, because it's working exactly as planned. As you can see, none of the kelp is circling around in the water stream. Most of these smokers should be pretty full. Maybe we can access the hopper from here. Yeah. It's mostly full. It's not completely full, but that is exactly like expected, since I do have 11 smokers and not just 10, and this farm can feed 10. Perfect. So, we know that it's working. Let's AFK here for a bit more. Well, a bit more. Maybe a few days. Add a storage system, and this project is perfect. I will now have free fuel for any smelter, and yes, there needs to be a super smelter here somewhere. The most unexpected problem of dealing with this place is the phantoms, and taking the phantom membranes out of the loot system. Why can't I pick it up? Come on, pick up the phantom membrane, thank you. I guess I need to cover this... Oh, hello phantom, yes, I'm not gonna kill you over the farm, because then your membrane is gonna end up in the loot system, and that's gonna be annoying. Because I'm not sleeping, because that would break the cycle of the farm. Well, the good news is that most of these have now fuel. I have added some more coal just to keep the smelting going. And I added the loot system, and the loot system still doesn't have anything yet. But we're getting there. It's very close to actually producing kelp blocks now, and not just fuel for itself. Let's see how the fuel situation is. Oh yeah, everybody has fuel. I did distribute this a little bit manually. Like, there is some coal left here. This one is filling up nicely. Maybe. No, I took kelp out of this to fuel the other ones, but they are filling up. All of them are smelting. And I think this one, yeah, this one runs out of kelp, which is exactly as expected, because there's a little bit too many smokers for the amount of kelp that this farm produces, but that's exactly what I want. Oh, we just harvested, so that's why new kelp is coming in. Yeah, I'm slowly reducing the amount of kelp in this chest, but yeah, we're there. The farm is working, we're good. I'm estimating, I think, around 10 stacks of kelp per hour once this is producing fully and is fully fueled. It's still gonna take a while. So 10 stacks per hour, yeah, this should be enough storage. The storage is not very practically accessible though, but I must say it was an afterthought, and I should probably add a floor here or something like that. Remove this tree. It'll do for now, but this is not perfect. And I might even AFK here for a week or two and just add even more storage. I'll figure something out. But sorry, tree, you will probably go away. Not yet, but you will probably go away. And now a few more hours have passed, and we see a buildup of kelp blocks, dried kelp blocks, I should remember that, dried kelp blocks, in the storage system. Everything is fully fueled, everything is working perfectly, the rates are correct, all the furnaces are smelting. This is a great success. And that will be everything I have for you today. I'll be streaming today when this episode comes out at 8 o'clock in the evening Central European Time, 7 o'clock in the evening UTC. It will be on twitch.tv/Borkaland_live. The previous stream went really great, and I was so happy to be able to stream again after I fixed my internet. And yeah, speaking of that, it's absolutely crazy. I found out finally, after pestering support for multiple days, and I don't know how many attempts, they finally gave up and told me that my internet connection, the magic box, I don't actually need it. I only need the magic box if I want to watch TV through the fiber, because I also get the TV through fiber. Otherwise, I could use any old switch. And yeah, that solves my internet problems for the foreseeable future, because normal switches, I have lots of them. So I shouldn't have internet problems again. You don't really need to know this, but I thought I need to rant to someone, and you are the closest person to rant to. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the stream or in the next episode. Bye!